Hello, Bayview members. Mark Patterson and Mike McGilvery here. We want to give you guys an update with an exciting time coming to Bayview in 2025, and kind of bring you up to speed on everything that's happening around the practice facility. A lot of questions, a lot of things have happened. The poles are up now. When's the net going to go in? When's the turf going to go in? So we thought it'd be a good idea to bring Mike here so we can talk a little bit about each project in each area of the practice green, how we're going to be able to use them, and when we're going to be able to see them.
So here we are in the new hitting net area. Driving range cage, power cage is what they call it. Installation went very smooth. We were lucky enough to time it perfectly with our maintenance shutdown. So the large poles you can see behind us came out of our parking lot and were put into the ground when really there wasn't a lot of activity around the club, which was perfect. The guide wires were installed in the days after that. And now what we're doing, so the guide wires go in after pole installation, and then the final measurement gets done for the netting. So right now the net is in production. It's a few weeks for production, and then basically we're going to set ourselves up for a position where in the spring of next year we'll be ready to open full with our turf installation is coming in the next 2 weeks. So you'll see it green, synthetic turf on the inside, and then we'll work to beautify the perimeters with sod work and our irrigation, small misting heads and some softscaping around the edges.
And the good news is with the netting, Mike, is that because we have to have the sides, the back, and the roof all installed in the spring, the same company does all the GTA areas that are similar to us, so we're going to be at the front of the line next year. So
right.
We could see it maybe as early as opening day, but I guess it'll all be weather dependent, but we will be at the front of the line, so we should have it ready to use in the spring.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and I think the key thing here is, you know, the poles went in, and I think there may have been a lot of questions. Well, when can we use it? So poles go in a couple weeks before synthetic turf installation happens, and the production for these nets is 4 to 5 weeks. So again, we're right on schedule of that spring opening, and I think it's going to be it's something we've never had, and I think the members are going to be very excited for it.
Agreed. Okay, next we're going to move over to the putting green, and the putting green's a lot bigger than what we're used to. I'm going to leave the size of the putting green for Mike to talk about in just a second, but what you guys haven't had a chance to see yet is the subtle contours throughout the green. There won't be too many putts that you can't practice here that you're going to see on the golf course. And what I love the most about it is the proximity to the hitting area. So it's going to be really easy for those of us that don't warm up very often before we play golf to hit 10 or 12 shots in the hitting net, and right behind you is the putting green. So hit a couple putts, get the speed of the greens, and off you go straight to the first tee.
Yeah, and I think that was the key thing in our kind of planning over the years, and the progress of this whole project was really it's a one-stop shop. So like Mark said, your bag is here. You're hitting some longer shots into the netting area, then you're stepping across with your putter and rolling some putts. And if you're running to the first tee, or if you're moving into our other practice area here, everything's here in that one spot. So back to the size of the putting green. This putting green is just about 8,400 square feet. Our current older putting green, just over 5,000 square feet. So it's huge compared to our other one. But for our membership, it's going to be perfect. I think we work, larger is bigger, especially when it comes to the larger is better when it comes to the putting greens. Traffic's going to be dispersed properly. We're going to have enough holes throughout this green that, like Mark said, Mark and his staff and his team can work on coaching or clinics or lessons, and there's still plenty of room out here for everybody else. So that was the big focus on this project as far as the putting green goes, making sure that it was adequate size for our membership and really for what we're growing into.
Okay, now we're moving over to the area that I think I might be most excited about with the practice facility is the short game and bunker green. We're going to go away from our crummy little tabletop green and crummy little bunkers, that's no offense, Mike, but now to a golf course quality pair of bunkers, and most importantly a golf course quality green that we're going to be hitting into, which is going to be so good for practicing bunker shots, for teaching bunker shots, and getting real true feedback.
Right, I think the key here is, what you see on the surface is amazing, but what is underneath the surface is even better. Again, membership really doesn't get to see this, but these bunkers are done with a new liner technology. You may have seen it on the first hole bunker, the upgrade to that. It's called a Better Billy bunker system, which basically it's a gravel that's coated with a polymer. So we've now turned the whole base of this bunker into a drainage basin. Number one, anytime we get those heavy rains, which obviously are occurring almost weekly now, these bunkers will not wash out. It's, again, I'm going to knock on wood moment, but the washouts will be very limited, seldom, far and few between, however you want to say it. But that's going to, one, it's going to keep our sand clean. Two, it's going to reduce our labor, our intensive labor manpower hours that need to go into replacing the sand in these bunkers. And three, it's going to keep that top layer where the ball and club come to, where the club comes into contact with the sand, the right consistency as far as moisture goes. So again, like Mark said, we used to call this the bunker practice area. I'd like to call this now the green side practice area, because not only are we going to have a golf course quality green here that's over 4,000 square feet, the perimeter of it is all going to be done just the same as we do the rest of our greens on the golf course. So we'll have the courtesy cut around the edge. We'll have a collar on it eventually after things grow in. But really, if you're going to work on your green side practice area, that's going to be right here.
And we'll get more into the usage of how each green's supposed to be used as we get into the spring next year. But as Mike said, this is basically going to be reserved for short shots around the green. That way we can respect our neighbors. We don't have any stray shots going in the wrong direction. And as you can see, the green's strategically placed where there isn't really a lot of room to take any long shots into this anyway. All the action's going to be hitting away from the houses and into the rest of the practice facility. So this is going to be, I think, my favorite spot in the new facility next year. Okay, our last stop for the first tee practice area is the Wedge Green, the pitching green. We're still kind of shopping some names around on that one, but we'll come up with something before we open in the spring. So Mike, why don't you take it away and update us on what's going on in this area?
Yeah, so you can see we're still working on some areas. We had great germination across the whole area. There's just some spots that naturally you're going to need a little bit of help. So the crew's out here working on this right now. Again, the germination on these surfaces came in 4 days, and that's light speed. So we're super happy for that. Again, that helps us out in the spring as far as opening goes. We got a good head start on it. These areas will baby and will help along the way. But really what we're looking at here is over an acre, around 50,000 square feet worth of space to use for a short game area. Again, that's just to this pitching green. It's not including the actual green side practice area that we had talked about with the bunker area. So really what you see, I mean, there's going to be a variety of yardages here, obviously, with this wide open space. It's almost like an open practice field. So back in the back corner where you see some work happening there, we will be pushing the short game area out there a little bit more, so you'll be able to play back into the green from that angle, from tucked back in. There's 270 plus degrees worth of angles to work into this green with your short game and your practice.
And the best news is these greens are all going to be kept up to golf course conditions, so we're not going to be hitting into fuzzy greens. We're going to be hitting into greens just like the golf course, practice real shots that we encounter on the golf course.
Right, and just to touch on that a little further, like these greens are going to be managed just the same as the rest of our greens out there. Keep in mind, these are the newest generation bent grasses that are on this. 007 XL. It is one, that's why it came up in 4 days. Two, it's going to be a nice fine leaf blade. Ultimately, any golf course that's building greens right now and they have the resources, this is what they're seeding to. It is an exceptional new generation bent grass, and I'm really looking forward to managing it.
I got one more question for you, Mike, because it keeps coming up probably a couple times a week, is what are we doing with that big swath of fairway to the right of the new tee decks?
Right. Yeah, so the fairway, what we're seeing down the hole right now, portions of that are going to be pulled over to where we see this work area happening here, just on the other side of this pitching wedge green. And then the rest of it, we're going to repurpose out to our current short iron range with our pitch and putt facility. That will be starting this fall. More than likely, that's going to carry on through the spring and midsummer-ish of 2025. But again, the focus here is get this new space up and running. Then we'll move into shutting down our old space for the revamp of it. And then, in the end, we end up with the two practice areas, but we do fill the void rather than shut that down right now and not have any spaces. This gets up and running, and then we move into that next area. So again, looking down the fairway, it's going to look different than this. We will be seeding and sodding a mix of both some taller fescues and some bluegrass, but also some tree planting to soften it. Really, I know in everyone's eye right now, it looks like the fairway. In everyone's mind's eye, it's going to look like a fairway for a long time because that's the look you're used to. But really, we're going to bump out some new plantings and really kind of help blend everything in to make that first tee area look awesome.
And just because you touched on it, I think we should probably come back to the range practice area at a later date because it's a bit more weather dependent and it's really more of a 2025 focused project than it is something that we're trying to put to bed before the end of the season. So
Absolutely.
more to come on that short game area and what it's going to become and the timeline as we know more.